Hello you wonderful people, I am Aga and I am back for another video. Now from my last video you can tell that I am really into election politics, and as a mega intellectual I really like to think that I vote for the best policy and I have no party allegiance whatsoever. Now while I've discussed American politics before and while it's really entertaining, there isn't really an election around to discuss, right? Right?
Prise d'accord de voir les innocents tués. Monsieur Carney, pourquoi vous ne appelez les choses comme elles sont? C'est un génocide. Et les gens, tralala, doivent la paix et la sécurité. Les gens, bombardino, crocodilo, la paix et la sécurité. Mais ce qui se passe, c'est un génocide contre les gens en Palestine.
Monsieur
Pourquoi
Carney,
vous n'appelez pas ça?
While the federal election debate in Canada can have its own video analyzing all the debates and stuff, excluding the French of course because no one cares about them except the Bleu Québécois, but on a more serious note though, as a mega intellectual, I like to think that I vote more on policy. And what better way to understand what policy I like, what policy I support, and who my interests align with more than using this free Canadian tool. It's called the CBC Vote Compass, and today I'm going to be doing the Vote Compass with you, so you don't have to do it. Before I carry on any further and get into the actual Vote Compass, there will be some spicy opinions. Some no-no words will be said, some no-no opinions will be heard, and that is just the nature of these sorts of experiments and just discovering your political allegiances. Now, whether or not I am based or cringe, it doesn't matter. It's what I think. So if you want, I'll leave a link to this in the description. Feel free to do it for yourself and see who your interests align with, see how you think. And what I'm trying to prove with this experiment, if you will, is just how intersectional our politics are. Because I am someone, by Canadian standards, I am really socially conservative. And by economic standards, I'm still very left-wing. So I'm like, I am left-wing economically like the liberals, but I'm also really socially conservative at times, so it's going to be really interesting to, see what the Compass thinks I rank at, what I am personally ranked at, and just which of my policies and stuff I agree with. So yeah, let's get into it. Hello everyone, alright, so here we are at the wonderful Vote Compass. You're just gonna have to put a code, your postal code. I'm just gonna put a random one in the St. John's East area, so I'll just go with this one. Let's continue. Yes, this is in St. John's East, and we're gonna start. So there's gonna be some policy questions, there's gonna be polling questions, there's also about leaders and just building a profile. So we'll start with the policy, so let's start. The federal government should prevent provinces from enacting laws that restrict public sector employees from wearing religious symbols at work. Now, I am really neutral on religion matters, but in terms of just your rights as to the Canadian Charter, I will agree. I somewhat agree. How much did Canada spend on its military? Much more, especially with the whole war situation we're cooking up with the US. As well as things to donate to Ukraine, but that's a different topic. Alright, Canadians should be taxed on the carbon they emit. Absolutely not. Carbon tax was a failure. Canada should continue providing military assistance to Ukraine. Yep, somewhat or strongly. I'll go somewhat. Denying the harms caused by the Indian residential school system should be a criminal offense. Ooh, see, I'm neutral about this. But Newfoundland and Labrador, which I'm gonna answer as much answers as I can in a more federal, more Canada way. But in Newfoundland and Labrador, where Indigenous communities are a lot more prevalent, I will somewhat agree. Alright, there should be fewer people employed with the federal government. Yeah, somewhat agree. It's not really about it's not about the fact that there's less employees. It's about how you structure the companies, or how you structure just the bureaucracy in general. But next one, transgender women should be able to compete in women's sporting leagues. Now, this is gonna be a really spicy opinion, some may say, but I really disagree. It's between strongly and somewhat. I don't disagree with the fact that trans women shouldn't be allowed to take part in sports. That is absolutely messed up. But if it's recreational sports, go right ahead. And if it's co-ed sports, go right ahead. But when it's sports that are gendered specifically, like men and women's sports, then I don't see why transgender women should be able to compete in women's leagues. They should definitely just go with their, in my personal opinion, as their gender assigned at birth. But I am just on the fence in general about this issue, but I would really disagree. It's also for the safety of both, the trans athlete as well as, the women that are competing. So I'll go strongly disagree on this one. Canada should impose tariffs on American imports. Well, I kind of have to agree. It's going to be one of these two because you're not going to get, put in the hotel room chair by the United States of all countries. So I'll go somewhat too strongly. I'll go strongly. My communist background, my socialist comrades, the wealthy should pay their tax because you should tax wealth, not work. All right, how much should Canada spend on foreign aid? About the same or somewhat more. I'll go somewhat more. Only those who speak both English and French should be considered for top jobs in federal government. Now, me personally, I refuse to acknowledge the French as much as I can. But on this instance, I have to agree because of top jobs in the government. It's, I think, one of the easiest competency tests you can have of someone willing to be a top worker in the government. So, but I'll go somewhat agree still because translators and interpreters can really help. All right, how much federal funding should universities receive? With this university, much more. People who break the law should be given harsher sentences. I'm neutral on this. It's between a neutral and a somewhat agree, because I don't want to go with a disagree and fall into major American cities, but I also don't want to start sending people to El Salvador. So I'll stay neutral on this. Prescription of puberty blockers should be banned for adolescents. Ooh, this is again back on the spicy ideas train. Yeah, I really agree with this, but whether or not it's somewhat or strongly is what I'm debating, because adolescent is a term that you can use across a variety of ages. But if it means under 18s, which is what I'm going to take it as, absolutely they should be banned. I think when it comes to transitioning, in my personal opinion, feel free to transition, but do not start transitioning as a minor. Do not go on your puberty blockers or your HRT as a minor, just because then once you're an adult and you do it, you're an adult. But if you're a child and it's irreparable damage or irreparable change that will happen, I just don't want people to be subjected to that as a child and then grow up as an adult and regret it. And I'm not saying not everyone will regret it. I'm not saying that adults don't regret it. I'm just saying at least do it as an adult, an informed adult. Plus it gives you time to think about it more. So that's good. Some would agree. I mean, strongly agree. Alright, how much should the indigenous have over Canada's natural resources are used? The provincial governments don't have that much say, so I doubt that the indigenous are going to get as much say. So probably I'm going to say about the same as now. How much money should other work Canadians receive in employment insurance? I am technically not Canadian, so I'm really neutral on this. I'm gonna go between about the same or somewhat more, because why not? But I'll go somewhat more. Quebec should become an independent state. Now, I personally disagree, mainly because of the whole America tariff war situation that's about to start happening. We don't want a third state entering the. I don't personally want a third state entering the tray and messing everything up. So I would disagree, but I'm realistically neutral on Quebec. But just become an independent state at a different time. And I think it was really messed up that back to the Quebec question. I think it was really messed up that they've been trying for decades and decades and it hasn't worked. So I don't think they're gonna have anything like this happen in a long time anyway. All right, next question. The federal government should prioritize hiring visible minority candidates over other applicants. I feel a certain way about this, and it's a really strong disagree. I don't think you can tell by someone's name or like until you interview someone. Like if your opinion of someone changes drastically based on what they look like, in a sense that like they're like a visible minority. I'm not talking like someone that comes in, I don't know, like dressed up sharp and the other person literally came out of like a fucking trailer. Like I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like two like equally I guess appropriately dressed, equally like competent people, but you hire the visible minority because of the fact that they're a visible minority. Yeah, I don't know about that one, Chief. The federal government should provide funding necessary to... Yes, I'm not a parent, but I do like, initiatives like this that help parents. So I'll go somewhat agree. I just don't know how it would be done. I don't know, like, any of the depth of it, but I do agree that, like, daycare should be a good thing. Daycare should be given to kids. But the federal budget deficit should be reduced, even if it leads to fewer public services. Now, I'm going to agree, but I'm going to agree with this part right here, because I think you can reduce the budget deficit without having to eat into public services, if you tax people correctly. But I'll go somewhat agree still. All right, the federal government should fund sites where people can consume illegal drugs. Well, just this entire part, my problem with this part lies in the fact that you're gonna become like all them cities in like the US, like your Seattle's, your like Phillies, your like San Francisco's, where if you look at them, they have they're like not rehabilitation, but like they essentially have people that go around like almost giving drugs to like their population and stuff, like the homeless or like those that are like struggling with addiction. And there are better ways. Just look at Portugal and how they did it. But I just really don't like the fact that like under medical supervision it's going to put a strain on the system. And if you leave the medical supervision area, guess what, you're gonna like suffer more. And Canada already has something similar to this. It's called MAID. But, okay, that was terrible, I'm sorry, but my personal opinion, I strongly disagree. How much should Canada do to reduce its carbon emissions? Oh, much, much less. 70 plus, or like 70 odd percentage of all of the world's carbon emissions come from one country. And the fact that people are struggling to, tackle that one country's emissions and try to reduce their own, like, emissions, I don't like that. All right, Canada should end its ties to the monarchy. I am really neutral on this. I'll say somewhat disagree, though, because it's really cool to have, like a king and stuff. That's just, like, the most arbitrarily, most probably idiotic reason for a take I would have in this video. But, all right, how much of a role should the private sector have in healthcare? I'd say somewhat more, but don't make it like private hospitals everywhere. Just it is capitalism at the end of the day, so like pay to play does play a role, but I'll just still somewhat agree. All right, the federal government should cover the cost of prescription drugs for all Canadians. This is something I actually do agree with, but whether or not it's somewhat or strongly, I'll go somewhat. How many immigrants should Canada admit? Now, speaking as an immigrant, my issue isn't really with, how the Canadian government currently handles things. It's the fact that we get disproportionate amount of immigrants from certain countries where provinces here have limits. And let's say they have like a 60,000 like immigrant or like mainly student limit, because that's the one I most recently looked at. And out of those 60,000, like more than 60% of them at times just come from one individual country, and that's that needs to be looked at. But about the same as now is fair to me. Just like the country ratios, like it's a really terrible way of saying it, but like that's probably like a bigger issue. All right, how much should the federal government have over how provinces conduct their affairs? About the same to somewhat more, I would say. It just depends on like how the federal government intervenes. Yeah, I'll still say somewhat more, especially with in Newfoundland and like BC, we're having the whole like the hydro like line with like Quebec, and just the federal government should really start digging oil. That's gonna be my big opinion. All right, Canada's laws place too many limits on freedom of expression. Oh, I gotta disagree with this. Sorry, not disagree. One of these two. It's a disagree to a neutral. I'd say neutral because Canada does have some, interesting applications of the law. Sometimes I would say, but I'd say it's neutral. The federal government should permit the construction of more oil pipelines. Yes. Okay, now that I think about it, I'm trying to make Canada more like Azerbaijan, which is really funky that way. But hey, it is what it is. How accessible should abortion services be across Canada? You see, across Canada, I'd say somewhat more, but like considering Newfoundland and considering how much of a proud feminist ally I am, I'm gonna go with somewhat to much more. I'll say much more. All right, we're done with the policy. We're moving on to a quick poll. So, how much trust do you have in AI? See, I'm gonna say a moderate amount of trust because I don't. Well, here's the thing with AI, in my opinion. It can give you a good base of work. It can give you like good ideas, and it can start conversations. But you gotta still be the one that's like fact checking it. You gotta be the one that looks over everything. So, moderate amount of trust in that sense. But how much do you trust the federal government to use AI appropriately? Yeah, no, I don't really trust the federal government to do anything, and it's not even just the Canadian government. It's just all governments in general. So I'd say not very much. And before I move over to this section, I got a really funny story. So you know how the whole USAID situation is like breaking down in the US, and like USAID is cutting funding across like lots of countries and all of these programs. You see, I'm looking through some of their things. The USAID stuff can be their own video, but I am really just genuinely looking through some of the things that USAID is doing, and it sounds like the CIA. It's literally like a diet CIA because, I'm sorry, as much as the American government loves burning money, they're not gonna burn millions on like sex change operations in Guatemala of all places. They're literally front names for like Guantanamo Bay tortures and like just stuff like this. I'm feeling like, and there was this whole thing as well where after USAID lost quite a bit of funding, 4chan started shutting down. So anytime you were on like social media and you were Fed posting and you were talking to about like, oh, this person is a Fed, they might have actually been a federal USAID agent. So think of that when you go to sleep tonight. All right, back to our regularly scheduled Canadian politics content. How confident do you find Maxime Bernier? I gotta go with like a 3 or a 4. I'll go with a 3. How confident do you find Elizabeth May? Jagmeet, because of his whole before the whole like brain rot meme version, but like in general he was really interrupting and stuff, and I just really don't find him that competent in my opinion. All right, Jonathan Pedneau. I don't know this fella. At least I don't really follow the Greens at all. No offense to the Greens, but like, yeah. Oh, Green Party. Newfoundland and Labrador has a really good candidate coming out of Cape Spear. Caleb Tingate. Vote Caleb Tingate. All right, how competent do you find Mark Carney? I'd say like a 4 or a 5. I'll put him at a 5. Pierre, I'm gonna put him at a 4. I would have put a 3, but then I'd have to put Mark Carney at a 4 as well. Trustworthy, 2. Trustworthy, I'll go with like a 4. Jagmeet, a 3 or a 4. I'll go with a 4. Pedneau, don't know. Carney, I'll go at a 4. Pierre, I'll go at a 3. All right, now we're gonna build our profile. Woohoo! So, if a federal election were to be held today, who would you vote? Honestly, I'd vote Liberal. Just because. Which party did you vote? I was not eligible to vote. I mean, I'm gonna check actually. Yeah, I'm not eligible to vote. I'm just gonna put it out there. What's your gender? I'll go male. Do I identify as any of the following? Nope. What year was I born in? Oh man, I have to scroll to find my year. That's a sign you're getting old when you have to scroll to find your year. Birth year at least. Sorry. What's the highest level of education you've completed? High school diploma or equivalent. Well, I'm about to finish university, but I can't really put it. All right. Anytime since September 2024. Have you attended school? Absolutely, I have. Current employment status, full-time employed. What religion? I am not really religious. I'll just go agnostic because it's one of those things where, like, I know there is some higher being that plays in a lot of fate and stuff. I just don't know much about it. I gotta go on that journey on my own, but that is about my religious interpretations of things. I am from Azerbaijan, but I speak English as my default language now. It's not even because of a Canada thing. Even back home in Azerbaijan, a few years before I came here, that was like the main thing. And like my parents mock me because I can't speak English. I can't speak Azerbaijani that well. My dad especially mocks me. So Dad, if you're watching this, please don't stop mocking me sometimes. All right, are you a Canadian citizen? I am not. Were you born in Canada? I was not. Which country was I born in? Woohoo, Azerbaijan. Which year did I come to Canada? 2021. Am I a First Nations? None of these. I was not born here. What are the ethnic cultural origins of my ancestors? Now, I know that like if there's some Irani watching this, they'd go like, "Oh, you're a Persian or something." But no, I'm Azerbaijani, straight up, homie. That's it. Which of the following categories best describes you? All right. Yeah, the survey is really interesting, eh? I kind of have to go with that, I'm sorry, but all right, which of the following best describe your sexual orientation? Yes. All right. Well, I don't really have like a solid household income because my work is really sporadic all over the place. I'll just go with this just in case. And left and right. So this is left, this is right, this is, I'm assuming, center. So I'm at like a center left, I would say. The Azerbaijani way of being center left. So I'm still really socially conservative, but economically we gotta improve this place. All right, generally speaking, how interested are you in politics? Very interested. What's the most important issue? I'll just put taxes and housing. Well, if I want to be more specific, I can be. I just really want to quick run this. So, all right. Would you be willing to allow the makers of Vote Compass to occasionally contact you about participating in future projects? Absolutely not. I don't want my data stolen. Thank you very much. All right. Let's load the results. Let's see where it's putting me. All right. Yeah, I can see it. Like center left economically and like socially a lot more conservative. I agree a lot more with conservatives than I would expect, but there is the whole weighing your results, and issue by issue I can check. But I think I'm just gonna weigh my results now because I think it would change some stuff. But all right, let's see. All right, federal government should provide funding. I'm putting it at like a 2. Canadian military at a 2. Absolutely not important. How much federal funding should universities receive? I'll put this at like a 3. Canadians should be taxed on the carbon they emit. Really, like, I'm gonna put not important at all, but I don't know if it's basically like if I put this at a 5 and like it weighs on my opinion. I'll try something. I'll go 4. How much should Canada do to reduce its carbon emissions? What I'm trying to figure out is if I go for a 0 on this, is it going to take my opinion more seriously or less seriously? I'm just going to put these at 0 just to be safe. Maybe I'll do like another rerun in my free time and like give an update in the description or something. And again, I'll put a link to the entire Vote Compass in the description if you want to do it for yourself. All right, the federal government should permit construction of more oil pipelines. Yes, this is important. This I'll put at 4, maybe a 5, depending on how the others work out. The federal government should prevent provinces from enacting laws that restrict public sector employees from wearing religious symbols at work. I'm going to put this at a 1, and I know what I'm going to do with these two. I'm going to put these at a 2 each. All right. Should the federal government have over how provinces conduct their affairs? I'm going to put this at like a 1. I don't really have much need for that right now. There is more economic things we gotta fix. All right, the federal budget deficit should be reduced. Yes, I'm gonna put that at a 2. Canada should continue providing military assistance to Ukraine. 2. You know what? Slava Ukraine. I'll put a 3. Canada should impose tariffs. I'm gonna put it at like a 3. How much should Canada spend on foreign aid? That's a 2 in my opinion. There should be fewer people employed by the federal government. It's like a 2. It's like a really low 2 in my opinion. Prescription puberty blockers, I'm gonna put that at like a 1. Like it is like my opinion, but like my opinion is my opinion. But like I don't think it's a matter of discussion right now when there's bigger issues. Private sector is same. Maybe a 2 because this like health services, accessible abortions. Well, I'm going to put it at a 1, I'm sorry. Federal government should cover the cost of prescription drugs. I'll put it at like a 1. Yeah, this I'm not going to even touch. How many immigrants? I'm going to put the immigrants at a 2. Canada's laws place too many limits on freedom of expression. Yeah, no, we're not dealing with that. People who break the law should be given harsher sentences. I'll put it at like a 1 for the memes. Canada should end its ties to the monarchy. Again, I really don't care about the monarchy. Only those who speak French and English. I'll put it at a 1 because I know Mark Carney's French was like really horrible from what I've been getting online. So I'll put it at like a 1. The Mark Carney tax, I'll call it. Quebec should become an independent state. I'm neutral on this. I am usually not at work or Canadian, so not really care about that. This though, put that at a 5 immediately. How much, say, should the Indigenous have over the Canada's natural resources? I'm going to put it at like a 2. Sorry, at a 1. And this, I'll put it at a 1 as well. Alright, let's recalculate my results. Yep, just like I expected, I'm a lot more liberal aligned because the policy that I consider more important, I agree with the liberals more, I'm assuming. So I'm going to check everything here now because this is where you can actually go through policy like one by one to see who you align with, who you don't, by issue of course. And there is also a 3D version of this graph. So for religion, I'm a centralist when it comes to identity. Yeah, I can see it. I would think I would be a lot more regionalist, like more Newfoundland based, but it is what it is. Alright, view graph in 2D. Alright, so let's start going through some of these issues. I'm gonna like skip through most of these. I'm just gonna look at the things I find interesting, such as I somewhat agree with the Green Party on this. But again, I'm basically not surprised at like the responses I will see to some of these questions. I really won't be surprised. I'm just curious where the CBC think I line up. How much can they spend on the military? Yeah, all the big boys I agree with. Yeah, I'm really conservative on like the carbon tax and like all the carbon stuff. And then I'm with the well, I'm in between everyone for the military assistance to Russia. Alright, denying the harms caused by the Indian residential school. Yeah, I'm mostly with the Greens. Caleb Tingate, my candidate from Cape Spear. Alright, then, yeah, I'm with the Liberals on this issue. Transgender women, yeah, definitely conservative. No shocks there. Canada should impose tariffs on American exports. Yes, everyone's on the agreement except PPC. I'm very much in the orange and green, the same patties of Canada, the Irish connection, I'll say. I'm really radical in that sense. Yeah, I agree with the Liberals again. Like, Liberals, I feel like this would be more of actually, no, I don't. I get why they would say. By the way, you can actually click these when you go through to link you to different like the policies specifically. I'm just not going to do that because I'm already running short on time. All right, only those who speak both French and English should be considered for top jobs. Ooh, I'm surprised that the PPC agree, but all right. And how much federal funding should universities receive? Yes, NDP. I keep seeing them in my university. NDP is the one party that's always around my university, so I'm not surprised. People who break the law should be given harsher sentences. I'm neutral on this. Yeah, I'm not like any of the big boys here. I don't care. The prescription of puberty blockers, I am not surprised that along with the conservatives. With the indigenous, yeah, I'm just like a centrist boy right there. Alright, how much money should other work Canadians? Somewhat more. Yeah, I'm in between all the big boys, like between everyone, technically. And Quebec should become an independent state. I am surprised that like the Greens and the PPC are on this page about like like the Quebecois independence. But all right, let's continue. The federal government should prioritize hiring visible. Yes, why am I even shocked at this one? The federal government should provide the funding necessary. Yeah, conservatives. I see it. The federal budget deficit should be reduced, even if it leads to fewer public services. Yeah. By the way, these are just like most of them are like just the policy positions. This doesn't mean that when they get to office, they will actually implement these. So still hold your politicians accountable. Sorry, is it accountable, accounted? Like, watch your politicians is what I'm trying to get at. All right. The federal government should fund. Yeah, I am absolutely on the conservative side on this. Yeah, I am also with the PPC on this one because there are other countries that consume more carbon than Canada. Deal with them as well. All right. Canada should decide the monarchy. I'm like a neutral compared to them. I'm closer to like the big boys here, but I just did it because I low-key find the monarchy somewhat cool. So all right, how much of a role should the private sector have in healthcare? Somewhat more. Yeah, I'm in between like these ones mainly because I can see NDP Green absolutely not a chance that they like it. But I just want somewhat more. I just don't want to become like the American healthcare like version 2 in Canada. All right, the federal government should fund the costs. Yeah, somewhat agree. How many immigrants should Canada admit? About the same. Yeah, I'm between like a liberal and conservative on this. Just limit certain countries, but that's about it. All right, how much say should the federal government have over how provinces conduct their affairs? I really went with, like somewhat more, mainly because again, it's less about the fact that they're involved. It's more the fact that like they're present, because the government only presents themselves at like the worst possible situations, the way it's looking like. But all right, again, these are all my personal opinions right now. I'm not gonna go into like a big old research paper about this. All right, Canada's laws place too many limits. Yeah, I'm neutral on this. Yeah, of course, these boys are here and these boys are here. All right, the federal government should permit the construction of more oil pipelines. Yeah, I'm with the conservatives on this one. Drill the oil. Drill the oil. All right. How accessible should abortion services across Canada be? Yeah, much more, especially around Newfoundland, because I'm a feminist ally. And I think that is it for the vote compass. So this is what my graph ends up looking like at the end. I was expecting this kind of graph between like these like squares from like here to like here. I was expecting to be somewhere here, probably more like along here because I'm really economically left. But yeah, so that's about it. This has been the CBC Vote Compass. Make sure to do it yourself if you want, just to see where you end up, just to see how you would do. And yeah, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video. It's been a long one and it's been an exciting one, I would say. So thank you. remember to like and subscribe, please. And I'm trying to get some algorithm boosting as well, because this might lead somewhere. I don't know. Peace.